You've been wondering why they pulled away. Why someone who once felt so close now feels like a ghost in your world. You can feel them, can't you? The energy hasn't vanished. It's shifted. It's quieter, more distant, but don't confuse silence for indifference. Don't mistake distance for disconnection. This means the avoidant is watching you from a distance, not out of apathy, but out of fear, out of protection, out of a desperate need to feel safe in their own heart again. What you need to understand is this. People don't run from love. They run from the wounds that love exposes. The avoidant isn't your enemy. They're your teacher. They're showing you the divine tension between closeness and freedom, between intimacy and individuality. They're teaching you how to stand tall in love without losing yourself. Maybe right now, they're scrolling through your page, seeing your smile, feeling that tug in their chest. They want to reach out, but something inside whispers, don't get hurt again. And you feel that energy and think it's gone. But it's not gone. It's evolving. The distance isn't the death of connection. It's the birthplace of transformation. So what do? You don't chase, you don't shrink, you rise, you become the embodiment of what you once sought from them. Safety, presence, authenticity. When you live from your truth, you send out a frequency that says, I am love, not lack. That energy calls forth the same from others, even from the one who watches you quietly from afar. Remember this truth. The universe doesn't waste relationships. Every soul that enters your path is part of your awakening. And sometimes the lesson isn't in holding on, but in becoming whole while they step back. The avoidance distance is not punishment. It's preparation. It's giving both of you room to breathe, to evolve, to meet again from a higher vibration. So instead of asking, why did they leave? Ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of reaching for their energy, reach deeper into your own. Because when you heal, when you rise, when you radiate that unstoppable, grounded love, something extraordinary happens. They feel it. Even from miles away, they feel it. This is the moment where you stop waiting for them to return and start becoming the version of you that no longer fears being left. This is your awakening. This is your power. Because when you live as love itself, not needing, not clinging, just being, the ones who once feared your fire will feel safe to step into your warmth again. And whether they return or not, you'll know this truth deep in your soul. You were never the one being watched from a distance. You were the light they were drawn to all along. Emotional distance is not emotional absence. It's easy to believe that when someone pulls away, they've stopped caring, that their silence is a verdict, that their withdrawal means the bond is broken. But that belief is a misunderstanding of how deeply human emotion works. The avoidant doesn't stop feeling. They simply stop expressing. They don't lose connection. They hide it behind walls built out of fear, survival, and self-protection. When an avoidant person retreats, it's not because their heart has turned cold. In truth, their heart is often overwhelmed. They are feeling more than they can process. The intensity of connection, vulnerability, or emotional exposure can ignite old patterns from childhood or past wounds. Times when closeness equaled danger, where love meant pain, control, or loss. Their nervous system remembers those moments even if their mind doesn't. So when intimacy deepens, their instinct is to create distance, not to punish, not to manipulate, but to survive. You see, the avoidant operates through a paradox. They long for connection yet fear what it might take from them. They crave to be seen but panic at the thought of being fully known. This push and pull creates a confusing dance for both people involved. To the one on the receiving end, it feels like rejection. It feels like abandonment. But to the avoidant, it feels like breathing space, the only way to regulate a storm of emotions they can't yet navigate. So while they step back, they are still watching. They are observing your reactions, your energy, your ability to hold space without pressure. They are watching because they still care, but caring feels dangerous to them. They are watching because they want to know if connection can exist without the fear of engulfment. Their distance is not the absence of feeling. It's a sign that their emotions have reached a level that feels too powerful to stay close to. The truth is, emotional absence and emotional avoidance are not the same. Emotional absence is detachment, a genuine emptiness, an indifference that has no pull, no current. Avoidance, however, carries an undercurrent of awareness. There's tension, hesitation, curiosity, longing. It's the kind of energy that hovers on the edge of engagement, always alert, always sensing, you can often feel it without words, that invisible thread that still ties two people together, even when communication stops. This is why so many people feel haunted by an avoidance presence. Even after they've withdrawn, you can sense their energy because it's still directed toward you. Their thoughts may circle around you. Their heart may still replay the moments of closeness, trying to make sense of the fear that followed. The avoidant does not forget. They replay, they reflect. They protect themselves through distance. They analyze from afar what they couldn't manage up close. What's essential to understand is that this dynamic isn't a measure of your worth. Their pulling away doesn't mean you're too much or not enough. It means they're in a battle within themselves. Between the part that wants connection and the part that fears losing control, in their silence, there's still a dialogue happening inside them. Can I trust this? Can I be safe in love? Will I disappear if I let someone in too close? Your role, if you find yourself connected to someone like this, is not to chase their absence, but to recognize the deeper truth beneath it. When you stop reacting to their distance as rejection and start seeing it as fear, compassion replaces confusion. You begin to understand that love for the avoidant isn't shown in constant presence. It's shown in their awareness, in their watching, in their quiet care from the shadows. Even though their actions may look cold, there's warmth behind the wall. It's a warmth that doesn't yet know how to reach you safely. The emotional distance is a protective measure, not an emotional void. Deep within, the avoidant still feels the connection pulsing. They still wonder, still care, still hope, just from the safety of a distance that makes their heart feel manageable. And in that truth, there's a powerful lesson for everyone. Don't equate silence with absence. Sometimes the soul that seems furthest away is the one that feels you most intensely. Their quiet observation isn't emptiness. It's evidence of a love that's learning how to heal. Fear of vulnerability masks a deep desire for connection. At the heart of the avoidant personality is not a lack of feeling, but an overwhelming sensitivity to it. They may appear detached, independent, or emotionally distant, but beneath that exterior lies a profound yearning for intimacy, for genuine closeness. The paradox is striking. The very thing they desire most, love, acceptance, connection, is the same thing that triggers their deepest fears. Vulnerability, the raw exposure of heart and soul, becomes a battleground where hope and anxiety collide. Avoidants often develop these patterns early in life, where experiences of love may have been inconsistent, conditional, or threatening. Perhaps there were caregivers who withheld affection unless certain rules were followed, or moments where emotional expression was met with criticism or rejection. These experiences teach the subconscious mind a powerful lesson. To survive emotionally, one must protect oneself by creating distance. This doesn't mean they stop craving connection. It simply means their strategy for managing the intensity of human emotion is to retreat, to put up barriers, and to hide their most tender feelings. Fear of vulnerability manifests in subtle ways. They may withdraw when conversations become intimate, change the subject when emotions arise, or offer small doses of affection without fully engaging. On the surface, it can feel like rejection. Yet underneath there is a constant internal struggle, a push-pull between the instinct to connect and the instinct to protect. Every act of distance is a form of self-preservation, an attempt to regulate overwhelming feelings that feel too risky to share. The core of this fear is the possibility of pain, the fear of being judged, abandoned, or misunderstood. Vulnerability requires trust, and trust requires surrendering control. For someone whose inner wiring has learned that love can hurt, surrendering control feels like stepping off a cliff. And yet, paradoxically, they are drawn toward that cliff because the human heart cannot help but seek the warmth of authentic connection. Their desire for closeness is always present, quietly guiding their attention and their energy, even if fear keeps them physically or emotionally at a distance. It is important to understand that avoidance is rarely about indifference. When someone who fears vulnerability observes or engages with another, they are often assessing whether the connection is safe enough to allow themselves to lean in. They may appear distant, but they are hyper-aware of emotional cues, attuned to the energy of the other person, and constantly measuring whether it is possible to allow their guard to lower. Their fear is a reflection of how deeply they feel. The intensity of their inner world makes exposure feel terrifying. For those in relationship with avoidance, it can be frustrating. It may feel as if they are pushing away the very connection they claim to want. But understanding the root of this behavior changes the perspective entirely. Their withdrawal is not a reflection of your inadequacy or lack of worth. It is a reflection of their internal struggle between longing and fear. Their desire for intimacy exists, but it is tangled with layers of self-protection. Love for an avoidant must be approached gently, with patience, understanding, and a respect for their boundaries. At the same time, their fear of vulnerability is not a permanent sentence. Growth and transformation are possible when the avoidant begins to see that connection does not have to mean loss of self, that intimacy does not have to equal pain, and that love can coexist with safety. Over time, the desire that has been masked by fear can begin to emerge in ways that are authentic, sustainable, and deeply meaningful. This dynamic teaches a profound lesson for everyone involved. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the gateway to connection. The avoidant's fear does not erase their yearning. It illuminates it. Beneath the walls they build, beneath the distance they maintain, lies an undeniable truth. They want to be seen, they want to be known, they want to feel the electric aliveness that comes from authentic human connection. The challenge lies not in convincing them to feel, but in holding space for their fear, witnessing it, and allowing it to soften gradually under the gentle, steady light of understanding and patience. In this way, the avoidant's fear of vulnerability is not a barrier but a mirror, reflecting the universal human truth. Every heart longs to connect, but the deepest wounds often make that longing feel dangerous. Their avoidance is a signal, not of absence, but of a love that is waiting carefully, patiently for the right moment to be fully expressed. Energy still flows between souls, even when physical or emotional distance seems to suggest otherwise. Connection is not measured solely by presence, conversation, or touch. There is an invisible web, an energetic current that links hearts, thoughts, and emotions across space and time. When an avoidant person steps back, it may appear that the bond is dissolved. But what is truly happening is that the connection has shifted into a subtler, more profound realm. They may not be near you, they may not be speaking, but the energy they carry continues to interact with yours in ways that are often unnoticed, yet deeply influential. This energetic bond is rooted in the human capacity to feel and sense beyond the tangible. Even when someone avoids direct engagement, their mind and heart remain engaged on some level. They notice your presence in the world. Consciously or subconsciously, they feel the ripples of your emotional state. They witness your growth, your joy, your struggles, and your triumphs, all from a distance. Energy does not require proximity to have effect. It is subtle, persistent, and often more revealing than words ever could be. When an avoidant observes from afar, their attention may manifest in ways that are indirect. They might find themselves thinking of you unexpectedly, reflecting on past interactions, or feeling emotions tied to your experiences. This is not a calculated or manipulative act. It is the natural flow of energetic resonance. Your energy impacts theirs just as theirs impacts yours, creating a dynamic dance of influence and reflection. Even silence, absence, or withdrawal does not sever this flow. It only changes the frequency, making it quieter, more introspective, more nuanced. This energetic connection can also serve as a mirror. Often the avoidant's distant awareness reflects back to you lessons, challenges, and insights about your own emotional patterns. You might notice that certain feelings or reactions arise more vividly when they are around. Even when they are not physically present, their energy touches yours, illuminating areas of growth, patience, and self-awareness that might have remained hidden otherwise. In this sense, distance is not detachment. It is an opportunity for both individuals to engage with the connection on a deeper, more conscious level. For the avoidant, observing from a distance is a way of maintaining connection while managing fear. Their energy remains tethered to you, but they engage with it in a controlled manner, protecting themselves from the vulnerability that direct intimacy demands. They may feel a pull toward closeness, yet simultaneously feel the anxiety that comes with exposure. This tension does not erase the bond. It intensifies it in a quiet, almost imperceptible way. Even in avoidance, there is a form of devotion, a subtle but undeniable attention that continues to exist beyond physical interaction. Recognizing this energy flow requires a shift in perspective. We are often conditioned to equate connection with overt action, verbal affirmation, or constant presence. But energy operates differently. It moves through awareness, intention, and emotional resonance. Someone can be physically distant yet energetically close, sensing your experiences, resonating with your emotions, and even influencing your state of mind without ever saying a word. The connection exists not in what is said, but in what is felt shared and mirrored in the quiet spaces between interactions. This principle also speaks to the universality of human interconnectedness. Souls interact on levels that transcend time, space, and circumstance. Relationships are not confined to physical proximity. They exist in a continuum of shared energy, memory, and emotional imprint. The avoidant's presence, though distant, continues to contribute to this continuum. Their attention, curiosity, and subtle care maintain a thread that binds the two of you in ways that are often unseen but deeply real. Understanding that energy still flows between souls transforms the way we perceive distance, withdrawal, and avoidance. It invites patience, compassion, and faith in the invisible currents that connect hearts. It reminds us that even when someone steps back, the bond is not broken. It is alive, active, and evolving. The avoidant may not engage directly, but their energy, their awareness, and their inner attention continue to move alongside yours. This flow of energy creates the foundation for growth, reflection, and eventual alignment, showing that true connection is never limited by distance, and that souls communicate in ways far more profound than words or actions alone could convey. Self-reflection through separation is one of the most profound gifts that distance in a relationship can offer. When someone steps back, particularly an avoidant person, it can feel like a rejection or an abandonment, but in truth, the space they create is a mirror, a sacred reflection of your own inner world. Separation forces you to confront aspects of yourself that remain hidden in the busyness of togetherness. It challenges you to explore your emotional landscape, your boundaries, your desires, and your fears in ways that proximity often obscures. Distance is not emptiness. It is a crucible in which clarity, self-awareness, and transformation are forged. When an avoidant retreats, it triggers a variety of reactions. There may be frustration, longing, confusion, or even fear. These emotional responses are not obstacles. They are signals. They point to areas within you that need attention. Perhaps it is a need for self-validation, a fear of abandonment, or a habit of seeking fulfillment solely through others. The separation allows these patterns to surface so they can be observed, understood, and ultimately transformed. It is in these moments of solitude, reflection, and emotional honesty that profound growth occurs. Separation also creates a unique opportunity to examine your attachment patterns. You begin to notice how you react to absence and distance, how your mind seeks reassurance, and how your heart interprets silence. For many, it reveals unconscious beliefs about love, worth, and security. The avoidance retreat serves as a catalyst for this self-examination. By observing your own responses without judgment, you gain insight into what truly drives your behavior in relationships. You begin to distinguish between authentic needs and conditioned fears, between genuine longing and dependency. The space between two people is also fertile ground for cultivating inner strength. When the avoidant steps back, you are called to stand in your own presence, to nurture your own heart, and to find fulfillment within yourself. This does not mean shutting down or giving up on connection. Rather, it is an invitation to become whole on your own terms. In this wholeness, you cultivate patience, resilience, and clarity. You learn to respond rather than react, to engage from a place of empowerment rather than neediness. Moreover, separation illuminates the sacredness of choice. Love is not proven by proximity, possession, or constant engagement. It is proven through conscious presence, integrity, and the ability to honor one's own and another's boundaries. The avoidance distance forces both parties to confront their role in the relationship dynamic. What are you willing to tolerate? What patterns do you refuse to compromise? What level of authenticity are you prepared to embrace? This reflection is not about assigning blame, but about gaining clarity and alignment with your highest values. It is also important to recognize that the avoidance distance serves as a form of divine timing. The separation allows for maturation, healing, and perspective. Without space, both individuals might remain entangled in unconscious cycles, unable to truly see themselves or each other. Distance provides the clarity to observe the relationship objectively, to recognize what is working, and to identify what needs transformation. It becomes a mirror that reflects not only the other person, but also the deeper truths within yourself, your strengths, your wounds, and your capacity for love. Finally, the self-reflection that arises from separation is a pathway to authentic connection. By engaging with your inner world, you learn to cultivate emotional intelligence, empathy, and patience. You begin to understand that love is not about controlling another's behavior or chasing presence. It is about embodying your own integrity, standing firmly in your truth, and radiating a balance-centered energy. The space created by the avoidance distance is not a void. It is a laboratory for self-discovery, growth, and awakening. It is through this reflective process that both hearts are ultimately prepared for a connection that is conscious, mature, and profoundly transformative. Separation, when approached with awareness and intention, transforms from a source of pain into a sacred teacher. It allows the reflection of your own soul to emerge, revealing truths that are often hidden in the noise of constant interaction. It calls you to examine your patterns, embrace your wholeness, and step into a more conscious way of loving, both yourself and the other person. In this space, distance is not a barrier but a gateway, a mirror that illuminates your path towards self-understanding and emotional mastery. Your power lies in presence, not pursuit. When someone distances themselves, particularly an avoidant, it is natural to feel the urge to chase, to reach out, to close the gap between you. That instinct is rooted in fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of uncertainty. But true transformation, true influence, comes not from pursuing someone else, but from cultivating your own presence. Presence is a state of being that radiates confidence, authenticity, and self-mastery. It is magnetic in a way that pursuit never is, because it communicates stability, security, and inner wholeness. The avoidant personality is often hyper-aware of energy. They sense neediness, tension, and desperation, and these feelings can trigger their instinct to retreat even further. When you chase, you amplify the very fears they are trying to manage. Your energy becomes reactive, driven by anxiety or desire, which reinforces their belief that closeness is overwhelming or unsafe. But when you embody presence, your energy shifts entirely. You communicate without words that you are complete, that you are grounded, and that your value is inherent, not contingent on their proximity or approval. Presence is cultivated through self-awareness and self-mastery. It begins with understanding that your worth is not defined by another person's engagement or withdrawal. You honor your own needs, emotions, and boundaries while respecting theirs. You engage in your life fully, pursuing passions, nurturing relationships, and growing spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually. In doing so, you radiate a frequency that is stable and magnetic, a frequency that naturally draws others toward authentic connection rather than repelling them with need or fear. This principle is rooted in universal truth. Energy attracts like energy. When you operate from presence, you communicate confidence, security, and self-respect. You demonstrate that love and connection are not about control or attachment, but about mutual resonance and alignment. The avoidant, who may be watching from a distance, responds to this energy differently than to pursuit. They feel the invitation rather than the pressure. They sense the possibility of connection without risk, which creates the conditions for trust, curiosity, and engagement. Being present also requires patience. Presence is not about immediate results or instant gratification. It is about embodying a state of being that persists regardless of external circumstances. It is about demonstrating that your emotional equilibrium is not dependent on someone else's choices. This patience is transformative because it allows the avoidant to process their own fears without feeling coerced or cornered. It creates a space where connection can emerge organically, rather than being forced through pursuit or pressure. Another key aspect of presence is self-expression. Being fully present means being unapologetically yourself, expressing your truth, and living authentically. It is about showing up with your emotions, your boundaries, and your values intact. This kind of authenticity resonates deeply with everyone, including those who struggle with avoidance. It communicates a message of safety, that your energy is honest, consistent, and capable of holding space for them without judgment or intrusion. Moreover, presence is empowering because it shifts the focus from external validation to internal mastery. When you stop chasing, you reclaim your energy. You direct it toward growth, purpose, and meaningful engagement in your own life. This shift is magnetic, not just to the avoidant, but to everyone around you. Presence becomes a form of influence because it demonstrates that love and connection are not about desperation or control. They are about alignment, clarity, and grounded selfhood. Ultimately, your power lies in the energy you carry, not in the actions you take to elicit a response. Pursuit may temporarily gain attention, But presence cultivates respect, trust, and authentic attraction. The avoidant may be watching from a distance, but it is the consistent, grounded, and radiant energy of your presence that calls them closer, not your attempts to fill the void with chasing. Presence allows connection to unfold naturally, creating the conditions for intimacy that is conscious, balanced, and sustainable. When you embrace this principle fully, you no longer feel the need to control or manipulate outcomes. You stand in your own power, knowing that the right connection will align naturally, and that your worth is never dependent on someone else's proximity. Presence, not pursuit, is the key to transforming distance into connection, fear into curiosity, and avoidance into a pathway for authentic engagement. Healing is a journey that begins with awareness. And in relationships with avoidant individuals, the distance they create can serve as a profound catalyst for personal growth. When someone steps back, it is easy to misinterpret their behavior as rejection, indifference, or even failure. Yet the avoidance withdrawal often provides a unique opportunity, the chance to cultivate emotional resilience, self-love, and inner strength. Their distance is not a barrier. It is a mirror, reflecting the areas within ourselves that require attention, compassion, and transformation. The first step in using this distance for healing is to recognize that your worth is inherent and unconditional. Avoidants often trigger feelings of inadequacy in others, because their withdrawal can activate deeply rooted fears of abandonment or unworthiness. These feelings are not reflections of reality. They are echoes of past conditioning, amplified by the dynamic of avoidance. By observing these reactions without judgment, you gain insight into your emotional patterns and begin the process of reclaiming your power. Healing requires acknowledging that your value does not fluctuate based on someone else's engagement or approval. Distance also encourages you to cultivate emotional self-sufficiency. In the absence of constant validation from the avoidant, you are called to turn inward. You learn to comfort yourself, to meet your own needs, and to nurture your own emotional landscape. This is not selfishness, it is the foundation of mature, balanced relationships. When you are able to stand in your own presence, fully attuned to your needs and capable of self-soothing, you radiate a stability that is profoundly attractive and magnetic. It is in this state of inner wholeness that you are able to engage with others, including avoidance, from a place of strength rather than neediness. Another dimension of healing is understanding the nature of attachment. Avoidant behavior can illuminate patterns that are otherwise hidden. Fears of rejection, clinging, or overcompensation. Distance provides the space to examine these patterns objectively, to notice where you may have relied on external validation or sought control in the guise of intimacy. This awareness is transformative, because it allows you to break cycles of dependency, cultivate healthier boundaries, and redefine what connection truly means. Through reflection, you learn to approach relationships with clarity and intention, rather than reacting out of fear or habit. Healing also involves developing compassion, both for yourself and for the avoidant. It is natural to feel hurt, frustrated, or confused by withdrawal, but resentment only perpetuates suffering. Compassion shifts your focus from blame to understanding. You begin to see that avoidance is rarely about you personally. It is about fear, survival mechanisms, and emotional patterns the other person carries. By holding space for their humanity while simultaneously prioritizing your own well-being, you cultivate a balanced perspective that fosters peace and reduces unnecessary emotional turmoil. The distance created by avoidance can also serve as a catalyst for spiritual growth. It invites you to explore deeper questions. What does love truly mean? How do I honor myself while honoring another? How can I remain whole while desiring connection? These questions invite reflection, mindfulness, and a deeper alignment with your higher self. In learning to navigate the tension between desire and detachment, you cultivate patience, resilience, and a more expansive understanding of love that is not conditional or reactive. Finally, healing through avoidance teaches the power of timing and alignment. Some connections require space, reflection, and growth before they can reach their full potential. By respecting distance and using it as a time for self-development, you prepare yourself and the dynamic for authentic connection in the future. You learn that true intimacy is not forced, coerced, or rushed. It is earned through presence, integrity, and emotional mastery. Ultimately, the avoidance distance becomes a tool for transformation. It teaches self-awareness, emotional resilience, compassion, and spiritual growth. It invites you to step fully into your power, cultivate inner wholeness, and redefine the nature of love and connection. Healing is not passive. It is an active, conscious practice. By embracing the lessons embedded in avoidance, you transform distance from a source of pain into a gateway for profound personal evolution, creating the conditions for relationships that are conscious, balanced, and deeply fulfilling. As we draw this journey to a close, remember this: the distance you perceive from an avoidant is not the end of connection, but the beginning of a deeper awareness of yourself, of energy, of love, and of the sacred dance between hearts. Every moment of absence, every subtle observation, every quiet pause carries within it a lesson, a mirror, a doorway to growth. The avoidant who watches from a distance is not a reflection of your inadequacy, but a reminder that true connection thrives not on need, but on presence, understanding, and emotional mastery. Embrace the space, honor the energy, and trust in the timing of life. Let patience guide you. Let compassion soften your heart, and let self-awareness illuminate the path forward. Healing, growth, and authentic intimacy are never rushed. They unfold when you stand fully in your own power, radiating the energy of wholeness and presence. Every soul, even one that steps back, is drawn to authenticity, patience, and love that does not demand but allows. Thank you for opening your heart and mind to these truths today. Carry them with you, practice them in your life, and watch how they transform the way you relate to yourself and others. May your journey be one of insight, growth, and profound connection. Goodbye, and remember, distance is not separation. It is a teacher, a mirror, and a path to the love that is always within reach.